Well, welcome back to the Finding Hope podcast. Today, I have with me Rick and Jesse,
Hello, all.
and we're going to be looking at the book of Romans, chapter 12, verses 9 through 12, a sermon that Rick preached this past Sunday on how to build a church,
Part one.
part one.
Part one.
At least that's what you
So-
told us.
This is part one podcast, I guess you
Yep.
could say. So this is again, we've moved into a very practical section of Romans, and I think this is just very, very good timing for us as a church whole, as a church in whole, and just where the text is leading us.
Yep.
Excited about it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. As we've talked about, I think 12 we could extrapolate on and probably preach. I think there's 21 verses in this chapter, and we could probably
Yeah.
preach a message on each verse.
Let love be genuine could be a whole sermon.
It could be a sermon series.
How
yeah.
how would the congregation feel if we said, "Hey, listen, we're going to take a pause. We're going to take a 21-week
Week
pause
pause.
mini series in
Yeah.
the Book of Romans after
Yeah.
we
after we do this?
after
Yeah.
we're going to go back
we're
to
gonna
chapter
circle
12.
back.
Yeah, that'd be fun though.
Yeah. Which it's pretty amazing to see his writing style change in this chapter. And one of the things that I've read in a couple commentators and listened to is that chapter 12 is really the point of the book. It is, he has led us all the way up to this, and chapter 12 starts with a therefore, and it is, it's one of those things where it's almost like, hey, I've told you all of this. I've shown you what Jesus has done for you. Now, as you move into this walk and have to live with each other and have to develop this thing we call the church, this is how you actually have to live in it.
Yeah.
And it's a very practical portion of Scripture. Like I said, he writes in triplets. They're very quick. They're very. I mean, he according to Paul, he doesn't actually write a lot because he doesn't have to. I mean, let love be genuine is so packed with information that it's you don't really have to say more, but it's something that you have to do and think about and act upon that is much harder. These things are
Yeah.
easy to read; they're hard to do.
Yeah. I loved what you titled it. How to build a church. And at first, I kind of scratched my head at it, but the more I thought about it and kind of looked at some other things, I really think this is the glue that holds the church together.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't have these characteristics, this isn't the core of your church, the core of your leadership. I mean, it's going to get ugly quick, And I mean, for us, as you mentioned, Will, as a church, this just lined up like then timing was incredible, and that's all I could think about the whole time was, man, we've got a church leadership meeting tonight, and man, our leader, this needs to be the heartbeat of our leaders, and do not be slothful in zeal. Like all these things are,
Yeah.
I mean, they should be the characteristics of a follower of Christ, anyways. That's what you're hoping that fruit is being produced in you, but
Yeah.
still, I mean, it's
A
something
lot-
that we need to pursue.
A lot of people will actually include in this section, verse 13, and I'll read it because, I mean, it's going to be next week, but contribute to the needs of the saints and seek to show hospitality. Another translation says practice hospitality. And if you look at the qualifications of an elder, hospitality comes before teaching. If you look at the qualifications of a deacon, same thing, hospitality. These are qualifications. These aren't just like, hey, I mean, you have to be hospitable, and hospitable is basically where we get the word hospital. So the elders, the deacons, the leaders of the church should care for the sick.
Yeah.
And we don't care for physical needs. We care for the spiritual needs of the people of the congregation. And so I purposely left it out because what he does in 9 to 12 is more about our heart.
Yeah.
And then he moves into, okay, you need to take care of this on your own.
Yeah.
And then now move into how you take care of other people.
Yeah. Let's talk about that for a minute, because the first line, let love be genuine.
Yeah.
So if this is something that the church has to have, I love the example that you used in Judas. I mean, I just thought that was really good. This idea of somebody who walked with Jesus, did life with him, and betrayed him with a kiss, right?
Yeah.
What was it, for the 30 pieces of silver or whatever he got?
You know that's
But-
the lowest legal limit you can sell a human being for.
Really?
You can't. He couldn't have gotten less money.
Wow. That's
That's the lowest he could have got.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting to me because you think about it within the context of the church, the people that we're doing life with. We've been in the church long enough to know that people like to talk. There's things that happen. You're just trying to say it as
What?
clean
People
as
like to talk?
But how do
No way.
we? I think you said it, Rick. How are we the same person to someone's face to when we're not with them? How are we protecting people? How are we loving genuinely? Like that was just a great example that you used there.
I think, and I think we've tried our best to do this. Everything in church has to stem from leadership, and if that is the core of who our leadership is, it flows down to the congregation. And so I think there's a, I can't remember where it's at, but basically it is like, don't take the word of somebody coming against an elder without 2 or more witnesses. I can't remember.
That's
what
Matthew 18.
Is it?
It's not. It doesn't say elder.
But yeah.
Yeah.
But what that is a protection to say, don't just listen to everything that goes on.
Yeah.
Have each other's back enough that, number one, it's never coming from you. And when there is an accusation, you go straight to that person and say, hey, we need to sit down and talk.
Yeah.
I don't want to assume things. I don't want to, because what happens is if love is not genuine, that thing turns into a wildfire.
Oh, yeah.
And before you know it, it's like that game of telephone.
Yep.
And you're
And
like, how did you get that out?
Oh gosh, yeah, we play that game all the time in youth, and it's hilarious to see what comes at the end.
Right.
But yeah, but I think that's also like, man, the enemy loves that,
Oh, yeah.
and if that begins to take root, the lies that he'll begin to feed into the other person's mind is just unbelievable, and it's just you've got to be careful in the way we handle those things for sure.
Yeah.
I was wrong about that, Rick. There is in 1 Timothy
Yeah. That's
5:19. I was thinking straight to, and then when you said that, I thought maybe there is something else in Timothy. But in 5:19 it says, "Do not admit a charge against an elder except on the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses."
Yeah. Yeah. So, one is as having this genuine love for each other, that you have each other's backs. That the first accusation that comes through the pipe is, and I love the example of Jesus at the well. When they came up in that culture, you don't talk to a woman alone.
Yeah, yeah.
And here's Jesus talking to this Samaritan woman who's had 5 husbands, who is the talk of the town, and they don't sit there and say, "What are you doing, this woman, Jesus?" I mean, like, they had so much respect for him that was the furthest thing from their mind. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that's the picture, is that the accusations that come, if they come, that should be the furthest thing from our mind, because we actually have genuine love for. That doesn't align with his character. That isn't who he is. I know this guy. I know this woman, and let me go talk to them.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's one of the main ways that we as a leadership team guard and protect each other and love each other, and that just flows down to the congregation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it goes back to always like choosing to want to see the best in people
Yes,
too. I
assuming
mean,
the best.
assuming the best, and I mean, obviously, none of us are perfect, but when we go into situations, we should be wanting the best out of those situations and hoping the best for whoever's on the other
I think
side.
another thing that we've run into too is that we do our best to be transparent,
Yes.
and we do our best to be honest and truthful. And if things
And
are
that's
going,
from the littlest
yes,
to the highest thing.
yes,
Yeah.
because we sat down to talk to a pastor a while ago, and he said people will automatically fill in the blanks with negative.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you can explain to them the why, the what, the who, what's going on,
Yeah.
and eliminate that gap of knowledge, there's really not much else to fill in.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, even when I say on the simplest things, like even with the donuts, like we were very transparent. Like
Yeah.
hey, we're going to get rid of the donuts, not doing the donuts, but
Yeah.
but yet we dug a little bit deeper to say this is really why.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just that we're just being
like
mean.
donuts.
We don't like donuts, and they're creating a mess or anything like that. No, there's a realistic reason of how it's affecting some of our culture. and there's a lot of costs associated. So that with these two factors, we're just being transparent. We're taking them away so that we can create more space. And I think that's kind of, and that's a very simplistic thing, but like we try to be transparent
Yeah.
across the board on everything.
Yeah, goes right back to Discover Hope. To Discover Hope, I mean, what I love about this church is like we're not sidestepping anything. You know, like if you have a question as hard or as challenging as it is, we're going to do the best we can to answer it and be transparent. And I think we've very much done that. From where we've come from to things we've gone through, we get that question a lot. And yeah, it's just
I think
something that
people
we don't shy.
appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
They just want you to, and what I've learned, and what I think you've learned, Will, and even you, Jesse, is that when people ask these questions, they're not coming at this as almost antagonistic.
Mm-hmm.
They're hoping you're going to tell them the truth.
Yeah.
They're hoping you're not going to sidestep because they have been lied to so many times. They've been watered down. They've been like, well, for these people, we'll do this, and for these, and it's like, please hold a line.
Yeah. Well, and I think the generation that's coming up with the mass availability of communication and social media and just connectivity that they have, there's so much fake, especially with fake AI stuff. It's so funny. This could offend some of our listeners, but I'm going to say it anyways. There's some of our the older generation that are seeing things on social media these days, and they're like, "Oh, did you see that?" And it's like, it's all AI. What? No. And it's like, but that's what's happening. And the younger generation is like, Dad, that's fake.
Yeah.
That and the younger generation just wants transparent. They want real. They don't want any fluff. They want any fake. And I think that's just beginning to creep more and more up the ladder to all of the generations that, hey, we're not going to put up with this nonsense. We're not going to put up with this fake stuff. They want genuine.
Yeah.
They want genuine love. Like,
Yeah.
let love be genuine. They don't want fake. They don't want, how's your day? Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
Blessed and highly favored. You're a liar. Like, no.
Yeah.
Your kid just like dumped the Cheerios out in your car and you were losing your mind on the way in. No, you're not cool. Like, that's where I think we've just tried to, from the lowest to the highest, be very transparent, very real. I think that's something we try to do even in our preaching is like, hey, wasn't a great week for us. We had X, Y, and it's just we're trying to be genuine in the way that we love on people, and I think that translates and transcends across a lot of boundaries.
Well, there's another larger level to this too. When you begin to look at a lot of what is out there, and you and I get a lot of Facebook feeds, Instagram feeds, TikTok, whatever, that are these heretics. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, for lack of a better word, they're heretics, and they are preaching a Jesus that is not Jesus.
Yeah.
And they are basically trying to mold Jesus into anything that they want him to be, instead of saying, hey, this is the genuine Jesus. And the thing that scares me is that this is so rampant and it's happened so quickly that there is a massive amount of people who really don't know the truth about who Jesus actually is.
Yeah.
And they believe whatever. And what this opens you up to, and I'm not trying to get too eschatological on this, but when there is a character like the Antichrist that comes on the scenes that is actually doing miracles in some form or fashion, they say, oh, that's the real deal. And that's how you begin to see this idea that Jesus says they're going to say he's over here, and they're going to say he's over here. Don't believe them.
Yeah.
You're going to know when Christ pierces the sky. I mean, you're going to know because it's going to be from the east to the west. And I think it's very dangerous right now because there's a lot of people under this delusion that, and you're seeing the breakdown of every form of the Bible in every way, marriage, family, the truths of God's word. They're all being, I mean, I watched this one woman saying there's a third gospel because the other two, or there's a third testament because the other two testaments are problematic. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think too, like what you see and what you sort of begin to touch on in these very heretical type teachings that are going and really going viral, and people are like, I mean, like Buttigieg or whatever his name, like that guy, Texas. What's his name?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I know I know who you're talking
Like,
about.
there's
Yeah,
there's a
yeah,
lot
yeah,
of
yeah.
there's things that are being taught and said, or I say taught. They're being said from a very political stance of, oh, this is what the Bible. You can't make that work in the Bible, because
No.
you might be taking one passage of Scripture and you might be trying to build theology on it. I saw it just the other day. I showed you all someone trying to build theology off of one verse, and it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't match the rest of Scripture.
No.
And we could make a theological bent, a theological direction out of a lot of things that we see in Scripture, even in some of these passages that we've been dealing with in the last few chapters. Like, we could take a theological run on things, but it doesn't line up with the whole of the Bible. And I think that's where, like, having a solid knowledge base of an understanding of the holistic view of Scripture is so important, because we do not want to get twisted and pulled, because things. That's the tickling of the ear that the Scriptures warn about. The tickling of the ear that pulls us away from what is true and genuine.
Well, looking at just verse 9, if you just take one of the triplets and hone in on it, abhor what is evil. And let's just take, we hate what is evil, and we base a theology on that, then we hate everything about everybody.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? I mean, then you become so legalistic that nobody that walks into your church is going to be good enough. But he doesn't start there. He actually starts with, you got to love people, and then you have to hate sin. You have to hate what is evil, and then you have to hold fast to what is good. It's a whole picture, holistically, of how you're supposed to operate in one verse.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because he says, love what is genuine, abhor what is evil, and hold fast to what is good. Love one another with brotherly affection. So he doesn't, like, he says, don't like evil. Like, don't go there. You still got to love one another.
Yeah.
Even in the midst of that, you still got to love each other with brotherly affection, which just doesn't happen.
Right.
Yeah.
So moving on.
You said, so
That's one verse.
Yeah, I was like, wow, this is gonna be a long podcast.
long podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where you want to go next? You preached it.
Yeah, I know. Well, outdoing one another in showing honor. I know I kind of joked around about that and showed a couple funny videos about us. But here's the thing.
Which, by the way, I had no idea it was coming.
You really showed some honor.
Yeah. So here's typically what I'll hear happen is that if we show other people honor, then we're in danger of people not showing us honor. And that has a tendency to we get taken advantage of. Okay. So it's like, well, you're always letting them get their way. You're always letting them do this. You're always, and you kind of get to a point in your walk and your Christian that you should develop enough confidence in the Lord that it's like, no, God's placed me in a position to do what I'm called to do.
Yeah.
And God's placed that person in a position to do what they're called to do.
Yeah.
And if they do it well, show them honor in doing that, I mean, and I think that's one of the reasons why people will walk in here in the first and they'll say, who's the pastor? And it's like, well, those two bozos. And they're like, well, how does that work?
Yeah.
Because
hear
they've
that more
never
than-
seen it before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And well, how is that biblically true? Well, Jesus sent them out 2 by 2, and I can't tell you fully how it works other than the fact that we show each other honor by understanding that the things that we're good at and the things that we lack. And we're not trying to step on each other's toes and have our way all the time, and when it actually works, it actually takes all the pressure off, and it's a wonderful situation where I don't have to have all the answers.
Yeah.
Nor do I want to have all the answers.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So but
Plus, we always
really,
have people to blame,
Yeah,
If
that's
anything goes wrong, it's Will's
Yeah,
fault.
it's Will's fault.
If they ask him, it's Rick's fault.
Yeah, it's never my fault. No, I think that I think what it boils down to is the reason people haven't seen it work is because, and like people in ministry so often are too prideful to let someone else lead beside them.
Yeah.
And that's not like me trying to toot our horn. Like, it's just, I saw it very early on in ministry, and very detrimental in ministry, that people would lead from a pedestal of power, and it would crush, it would cripple, and it would hurt the church. And every time I saw churches thriving, there maybe wasn't always two lead pastors, but there were people who were right there. And so I think our dynamic's a little bit different, because I think you do have a lot of times where you have some churches that are doing things really well, and they have a team of people who are teaching. I think that's what we're doing. We've laid it out way more across the board, if you will. And so it does work. Like, it's not, and it's actually fun. Like, it's not, it's just funny.
The other thing that, again, you begin to see is that when this model is working and people see that it's working, you have a lot of people in our church, and I kind of referenced a couple people that have led high-level positions in their secular jobs and in the world, and they come into the church not with this arrogant chip on their shoulder, like I'm above this, you know. Because I think hold on, let me read this. This is in this same chapter. I'm sorry. Let's see. Basically, associate yourself with the lowly. Right here. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be haughty, but associate with the lowly. Never be wise in your own sight. That's in verse 16. And what he's saying is, like, don't ever think that you can't talk to somebody in your own church.
Yeah.
And don't ever think that you're above a job to do in your own church.
Yeah.
I mean, when I go home at night, what do I do at my own house? I mean, I take the trash out. I do the dishes. We clean out the pool. I mean, there's not a job in my own house that I'm like, it's my house.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like somebody's got to clean the gutters. Well, guess what? I'm on the ladder cleaning the gutters. You know?
Yeah.
And that's the same picture that we have here, is that we're not, it's not a membership.
Yeah.
It's a family.
Yeah.
Partnership.
It's a partnership. And
I mean,
to watch
yeah.
these guys come in that have led high-level lives, and they're making jelly biscuits for people and serving donuts and doing coffee, and, you know, trash is full, and they're like, I got it, you know?
Yeah. From, I say an outsider looking in, when I'm sitting in the congregation and you guys get up there and preach, something that I love that you all do is that you both go out of your way to show each other honor consistently. And I think from a holistic standpoint,
He calls me a moron.
yeah, that's just true. Yeah.
Myself a moron, too.
Yeah.
It's his love language. It's his way he shows honor.
You show videos.
That was equal opportunity, okay? Mine was worse. It was real. Yeah.
But what I think it does is I really think it sets the tone for the entire congregation to say that it's visible that this isn't a competition.
Yeah.
And I love what you kind of joked about, like, when we get to heaven, are we only going to hang out with First Baptist or something like that? But it's just crazy how many people.
Go tell that joke to a First Baptist church.
Oh, I know. Yeah, they would not like that. But it's just crazy how many people are competing when we really are on the same team. You know, a church that we watch a lot, the Village Church, you know, Matt Chandler and them up in Fort Worth. That something I love that they do is every single time that they send somebody out, I mean, those guys go out of their way in showing honor. And it's not like we're going to slide this under the rug, so-and-so's, you know, going somewhere else. It's not a part of our kingdom.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, no, up front, come up here, look at all that he's done here, look at how God's used him here, look at how God's going to continue to use them out there. And, man, we're on the same team. How can we help them? How can we be a part of it? And it's just really pretty. You know, it's just awesome how they do that.
You know, there's a right way and a wrong way to leave a church. And sometimes you leave a church and it's like you are shunned.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they don't. I mean, if they see you in public, they turn the other way. Like, and
It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy because, you know, like I kind of joke about this too. If you leave a job, they throw you a party and bake you a cake. If you leave a church, it's like you're dead to me. You know, and it shouldn't be like that in the body of believers. I mean, that we had a new couple come in about a month ago from a church in the area. from Johnson City Church. They just moved into Gray, and the pastor in that church said, "Hey, there's a great church in Gray. You should check them out because I know the drive for you guys and all this other stuff." And so they started coming, loved it, and that pastor texts me and says, "Hey, this couple's coming. They were an integral part of our church. They led a life group. They're a wonderful couple. I just wanted to basically give you a reference. Sorry to see them go, but you've just gained a great couple."
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how it should be.
That's how it should be. Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
And you know, they're not bad mouthing the leadership. They came in, they said, "Look, we had nothing against the church. We just had a change of life. This was more convenient for us. You guys are doing a great thing here, and we want to partner with you." You know?
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. That's really good.
It just needs to be modeled more.
Yeah.
I mean, it really does. I mean, and I think that's the biggest thing that I would say. If there's, again, I don't know who listens to this. Just, if there's other churches that listen to this, man, just don't. You're not in competition.
Yeah.
Like you're not in competition with the local church. And when you become competitive in that way, then you've lost sight of the gospel, of what the New Testament church was all about. It wasn't about it wasn't about competition. It was about the gospel going forth, making disciples of disciple, and it's just we miss that, and it's just become a machine.
One of the things that I think was really good, we've said this often, was going through the book of Acts and learning who Paul was before learning what Paul had to say. Yeah. Because if you're young in the faith and you begin to read some of Paul's writings, and I'm talking like 1 Corinthians and different, even some of Romans, Paul you would think Paul comes across as a little harsh. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But when you actually learn who Paul was and that he never retaliated, every time he was on trial, he never really even defended himself. He defended the gospel and took up the call of Christ. But here's the thing: when you look at, I think it's around Acts 20, Acts 22. He goes to the elders in Miletus, and they fall on his neck and weep because they know they will never see him again. Now, that shows you the type of love the church had for Paul. You know, like he wasn't this dictatorial, tyrant that walked in. I mean, he was writing these letters in love to say, "Look, I see these things in you, but I also see these things in you. And as your father, I would be remiss if I didn't take you to task every once in a while. And I'm not doing it out of hatred or animosity. I'm doing it because I love you."
Yeah.
You know. The other thing I'll say about this, lastly, is if there's any pastors listening to this, you don't have to do it all. You will bottleneck your church if you think that every decision has to come through you. You have to basically make the decision on the floor color and the coffee and all. You will just wear yourself out.
I think, one of the things, a lot of times people look at the pastor to make the decisions. Yeah. But I think, a lot of times you and I like to play the Jesus card and ask them right back, "What do you think?"
Yeah.
What do you say?
Yeah. What do you say?
Who do you say?
But I think that there's wisdom in that to say I'm not going to make every decision. Like people come to us about decisions that do need to be made, and they are ministry leaders or ministry servants in areas, and I love to say so. Tell me your opinion. Tell me what you think. Because a lot of times, and this is very true even in marriage, and we can't see every angle. We can't see everything, and so it's not, for a pastor sometimes to make decisions, especially at what I would say making ministry or making decisions in silos. In other words, like you're so isolated, you're making a decision without a width of knowledge base, and so you're so isolated into a silo that sometimes it's unwise. Yeah. So don't make all the decisions yourself. You can use other people to be sounding boards and help you make decisions.
Yeah, a lot of people come to us and they'll be like, "You know what your church needs? It needs this ministry." And we'll be like, "Well, do you want to run that ministry?"
Nope.
Because I'm not doing it. You know?
And I think, but I say that too. So there's decisions that need to be made that I think you spread, but you have to be, as the pastor, you have to be the one who makes sure that you're staying on theologically straight, that you're staying on the vision, and so you have to be that litmus of making sure you hold fast to the Bible, make sure you hold fast to the Word.
Well, you
and-
said something earlier today when we were talking. You have to understand the rhythm of your church, and there is a rhythm. There's a rhythm to every family. You know, you as a father, you know what is good for your family and what is not good for your family.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
I have a 16-year-old daughter, and both of my sons, when they turned 16, you know, it was a big deal because they were ready to drive, and my daughter is not ready to drive, and I know that. And she knows that.
Yeah.
But I mean, what cracked me up with you is like your daughter turns 16 and it's like, okay, great. You now take the kids to
Yeah,
school,
yeah.
pick them up. Lots riding on this, Emma.
Well, when she turned 16 on I think on the weekend, and she could go on a Monday, or maybe her birthday was on, I don't remember, but like we scheduled her appointment, and
You left.
I left to go to Africa
Yeah.
for 2 weeks. I was like, you have to pass this because you're like, you're the only chance I got to pick the kids up and all. Yeah.
But
So,
see, you knew
yeah.
that she was up for
And
that.
she was- yeah, she was ready for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's knowing those things and understanding that.
100%.
Let's talk real quick about the verse 11, and then we'll. I don't know how much we'll hit on verse 12, but do not be slothful in zeal, be fervent in the spirit, serve the Lord. One of the things that we've run into, especially when you start talking about spiritual gifts and gifts in the church, is people will come in and they'll say, "Well, I don't know what my gift is. I don't know. I mean, I can't get up and speak, and I'm not good at doing this or doing that, what we typically associate quote unquote ministry with." But what you see in these passages is hospitality. You see serving.
Yeah.
You see all of these things that anybody can do these things,
Oh, yeah.
and so from a ground level, if you want to come in and serve the Lord, hey, park some cars, pour a cup of coffee. It's not like this grandiose thing that you've got to know it all, be it all, go
Yeah.
through seminary, and then I can
Yeah.
start serving the Lord.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we all three got into ministry by
Putting up
stacking
chairs.
tables and chairs.
yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So I ran
That guy
sound.
really-
That's
You ran
right,
sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got started doing sound and tech and stuff.
It's just
and-
somebody in the church was like, "Hey, you, come here."
Yeah.
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 And the greatest way to get youth involved is to ask them to do something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Delegation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
It
you
runs
told.
downhill.
I think you taught me that.
Yes.
You need to learn how to delegate. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing, is that sometimes I think we get this idea that, well, I only do this. And that's beneath other areas of ministry, and they're not. They all have to work in this level of, they have to work together.
Yeah.
Going in and pouring into a kid in kids ministry or changing diapers and all of that other stuff, that's part of ministry. That's where it's at, and just because people are on stage doesn't mean that's the ultimate goal of what's going on there. And I think that's the beautiful thing about it. We're doing all of this under the Lord. And I think I referenced something too, again, getting into this idea that nobody can do it like me. Nobody can do it better than me.
Yeah.
It's got to be done my way. You're going to bottleneck that area.
Yeah. 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 I really like the illustration of the kids ministry worker.
I can't get no help up.
They can't get no help up in
Well, I
here.
keep sending you help.
Yeah.
Where are they going?
Yeah.
Keep running them off.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So the last triplet in this is rejoice in hope, be patient in tribulation, and be constant in prayer. Basically, that's one of those coffee cup verses, and I think we've got it on some wooden paddle from Hobby Lobby in our house somewhere. Yeah.
Wooden paddle from
Oh, that's awesome.
I love that.
Yeah. But again, I love how Paul goes to hope and then straight to tribulation. Rejoice in hope, patient in tribulation. And it again, writing to the Romans, who all they knew was tribulation at that point. If you turned to Christ, that was essentially a death sentence. You know,
Yeah.
And a lot of times we think tribulation is basically they took the donuts away, or yeah, I won't keep referencing
We
that.
just keep
Yeah.
keep like
Yeah.
hammering
Going
that
back to
down.
We'll talk about this idea of being constant in prayer for somebody who's reading that line there. I feel like people overcomplicate prayer so much, in our daily walk. It even says pray without ceasing.
Yeah.
And what does that look like for us? I feel like so many times people think, well, it's got to be this formal thing where I sit down, put my hands together, bow my head just right. But the reality is that we're walking through this life, dealing with things. We have anxieties, things that are weighing on us. And Paul, I feel like, is almost kind of giving us this remedy of like, you can be in prayer constantly, to kind of help that. What does that look like?
I don't know, Jesse. What's that?
I don't know. Don't put it back on me. Will, what's that look?
Listen, I'm the.
I mean, I guess for you all personally, as you're walking through things.
Well, I think prayer can be formal.
Yeah.
But I think prayer can also be very informal.
Yeah.
And I think what I've learned more than anything over my time is that God just wants you to talk to him. Like a father wants to hear from his son on the phone. Hey, how's your day? When I pick my kids up, how was school? How was track? How was, all the things. He just wants to hear from us. And I think so often we try to make, I don't have the words to say. I don't know what to say. He doesn't care what you say. He just wants to hear from you. Like, he just wants you to talk to him and say, God, I need help. Like, I don't, I'm struggling with this. I'm struggling with this, this sin. I'm struggling with this thing in my life. Or I don't understand this. I don't understand what your word is saying. And it doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to have fancy words. He just wants to, and it doesn't have to be like, oh, it has to start like this and has to end like this.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just you're driving and you're like, God, I need this. I think that to me is the constant in prayer that throughout our day, throughout our life, that we just talk to him, that it doesn't have to be this formality, if you will, that this, hey, I'm set. Now, I do think it's good to set time aside to focus on prayer, but I don't think that it has to be one of those things that it's,
how often as we're riding in the car, we've got noise filling us. We've got a podcast going or music going. And in our minds, in the back of our subconscious, we're worried about all of these things. And so it's just churning up. And what Paul is saying is he's saying, hey, capture that, release that to God in prayer. And what the verse that I started with was in Psalm 55, 16 and 17. This is David, but I call to God and to the Lord will save me. Evening and morning and at noon, I utter my complaint and moan. And I thought that was interesting because a lot of times it's like, well, God doesn't want to hear this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is menial. I'm complaining again.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, there's going to be seasons in your life. I mean, David was in a 7-year season where all it was complaining and moaning.
Yeah.
This is not fair. What's going on here? Why am I alone again? My own men want to kill me. I'm stuck in another cave. And what he's trying to say is that God is open to our complaints. You're not going to chase God off by complaining.
Right. Yeah.
He is big enough to handle your questions. Why are you doing this, Lord?
Yeah.
This doesn't seem fair in my life. This is going on. And so, again, like you said, Will, it doesn't need to be this high and lofty thing. He's just moaning and complaining.
Yeah. I think that's what I got out of it is that, man, he wants our messy, real, ugly prayers, and it's like, that's what he wants because he knows that that's where the real heart is and he wants our heart,
There's now some studies going on about that we are over psychoanalyzed. So much counseling is going on, and it's not getting anybody anywhere. It's just drudging up all of this anxiety, worry, and all of the things that you feel that you've not I'm not good enough. All of my problems, and coming in and talking to somebody about it week after week. Now, sometimes that needs to happen.
Yeah.
You need to do this. But a counselor's job, I hate to tell you, is to keep you in counseling because that's the only way they get paid.
Yeah.
So there's never really a solution. It's just like, well, how do you feel today?
I think you're going to need at least 6 more sessions. then we'll reevaluate.
Right. And so it's not really getting anybody anywhere. It's just
Yeah.
just this constant like feel sorry for me and all this other stuff. And that's where Paul says this in Philippians, don't be anxious about anything, but in everything through prayer and supplication with thanksgiving let your request be made known to God. So we may get the first two right, prayer and supplication, but are we thankful?
Right. Yeah.
Because the gratitude part of it is a key part of it. That thankfulness that hey, I do have breath in my lungs. I'm still driving in a car. I have a home. My kids are this or that, or are we just simply focused on all of our problems and anxiety and how low we are?
Yeah.
I think we can get into this mindset that the world is against us, the universe hates us, and it's like, no, that's not true. The Lord has a plan for you, and the Lord loves you, and you can come to Him with all of this stuff. But He also is saying, you're not going to hell. I saved you.
Yeah.
Can you
Rejoice in your hope.
Right, rejoice in hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so some of that is actually changing your mindset. Again, getting back to what I first said, these things are not emotional or natural. This is a supernatural change that basically has to take place in us as we grow and develop in the Lord. And everything that we have been reared with and raised with basically has to kind of almost be burnt out of us. And that story about David in the cave, he was crushing David into leadership for 7 years.
Wow.
I mean, pressing him, all of this stuff out of him to where when you come out, you now know how to treat people.
Yeah.
And I think He's done that in us for a season. I think every leader that God calls to do this, there's got to be a crushing period of time.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're looking to get a ministry, buckle up, Buttercup.
Don't do it. I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, I think that, man, there's nothing else I'd rather be doing.
Yeah,
And
I don't think I could do anything else. If I'm being honest, that's where I got to. You know, you get to the point to where you genuinely feel like God created you for this. And that's a fun place to be in. It's surrendering to that, but yeah.
So one of the last things, again, Philippians 4:6, do not be anxious about anything. How is that possible?
it's not on this side of eternity.
Okay.
I mean, it's really not. It's not on this side of eternity without Him. I think we're always going to be anxious about things, but I think that I think the anxiousness, like what we have to guard from, is being anxious from consumption.
Yeah.
Like that the anxiousness would consume us in such a way that it would be debilitating.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I also think it's this. Number one, John, 1 John, or no, I think it's John 14. Whatever you pray according to my will, He hears us.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a mind shift that has to happen that, number one, God is sovereign, that everything is going to work according to His plan. And so when you are going through these things, you have to understand God is the ruler of the universe, and these things are designed to be part of His plan. Bad things happen, yes. Good things happen, yes. Kids are prodigals. Kids come back. Things happen in our life. And if we have this mindset that it is all in the hand of God, then He planned this. He directed this. This is according to it. And prayer actually can change those. You can pray to God, and He hears us, and He reacts to those things. If you have that knowledge and that heart posture to that, anxiety can go away, because it's like, well, I'm serving a God who knew this was going to happen from the foundation of the world.
Yeah. Well, I don't disagree with that. I think having a right understanding of God's sovereignty gives you an immense amount of peace to walk through this life.
Yeah.
But I don't think you're ever going. I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of God's sovereignty, but at the same time, like, there's still moments where I'm like, God, I don't know if I can handle this.
Yeah.
And so there's anxious moments of worry, but you're, I think that's the constant. Like, God, I can't. I don't.
Yeah.
I feel anxious today, and I need you to feel me.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's
and
almost
take
like
this
a
away.
replacement strategy. He's giving you something that when you feel these anxious moments, because they're going to come, replace it with prayer.
Yeah.
And I mean, every time that comes, here's the remedy. Replace it with prayer, and immediately you're going to feel what? the peace of God which guards your heart and exceeds any understanding that we could have.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
and so yeah, I actually just taught on that passage, but
Look at
it was
you.
fun. But yeah,
Prayer. So that'd be a good, interesting study for you guys that are listening. Prayer. What is the difference between prayer and supplication mixed with thanksgiving? You know, why does he use those two? Why didn't he
Yeah.
just say prayer?
it's a just random thought, but does understanding God's sovereignty ever like make you think, well, why do we need to pray? I've had that
Oh yeah.
I've had that question posed to me a lot, and I'm just like, man, that's a tough one because he is so sovereign. Why?
But he tells us.
I know
to
this
pray.
is a whole nother podcast,
like,
but
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, there is a mandate in the book of James that said,
Yeah.
bring the sick to the elders and pray the prayer of faith over them, and they will be healed.
Yeah.
Prayer is a mandate in our life, and I think what Jesus said, whatever you bind in heaven will be bound on earth. Whatever you loose in heaven will be loosed on. There's a power in prayer,
Absolutely.
that is a conduit between a believer. You know, the prayers of a righteous man availeth much.
Yeah.
I mean, so when you look at the book of Daniel, and Daniel says, I prayed for 21 days, and Gabriel comes to him and says, look, we heard your prayers at the beginning, and I couldn't get through the Prince of Persia for 21 days.
Yeah.
It didn't stop Daniel from praying.
Right. Yeah.
He prayed on, you know.
Yeah.
And I heard you the first time. I just couldn't get to you in time.
Yeah,
Which,
yeah.
which is a pretty incredible passage of Scripture, that it does have an effect on the spiritual realm somehow, some way, which we won't know until the
Yeah.
other side of heaven.
Yeah.
You know,
It's real cool.
but the confidence that we have is that he hears us.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he says, ask, seek, and knock. Those are three different things. He gives a parable of the neighbor that keeps knocking at the door, and finally the guy's like, what do you want? It's 2 a.m, you know? And he's like, sometimes we've got to knock until the doors of heaven open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Love
it's all throughout the Bible.
Oh, yeah.
That our responsibility as Christians is to pray, but it's also a gift from God that reduces anxiety. That if we are thankful in our heart and those kind of things, it confounds the enemy somehow, because he's like, I've thrown everything I can and they're still happy.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's a hard.
That's
Again,
good.
it's not natural.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yep.
Love what is genuine.
Yep. That's right. So next Sunday we will move into part 2, and I love I don't know why it's just been going around in my head. Practice hospitality. A young man got in a cab at the airport, and he said, "How do I get to Carnegie Hall?" And the cab driver turned around and said, "Practice, practice, practice." I know it's awful.
So like Allen Iverson. We talking about practice?
Practice?
Practice.
Yeah. Anyway.
But I don't know that term. It's like you actually got to do it.
Yeah.
And you got to practice it. You know, I went over to a young couple's house a long time ago, and we get there and we order pizzas, and I was like, you guys have any plates?" It's like, we just use the top of the box. You guys have any cups? Or we just drink out the 2-liter bottle and pass it
go.
around. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they're like, we've never really had anybody over before.
I don't know what to do.
We don't. So you got to practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, goodness.
Well, that's good. So, hope y'all join us on Sunday for part 2 of this little section of Romans. Anything else you want to add?
Nothing.
Deuces. Hope y'all see us Sunday. What is it? 8, 9:45, and 11:30
For now.
for now.